So in this video we're talking restaurants, we're talking eating out in Mallorca for summer 2025, and you can see I'm over here in Camp de Mar and also in the location of one of Mallorca's most famous restaurants, the La Ilieta restaurant. Now I'm over here in Camp de Mar today. I'm going to be making a video about this resort, so consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already if you want to find out more about this absolutely beautiful resort which lies behind me. Now I thought I'd start this video to help you prepare for your summer holiday trip because, and I never thought I'd actually say this, but if you are coming over to Mallorca this summer, then I really do advise booking some restaurants even before you come over here on holiday. And that sounds absolutely crazy, but just referring to the La Ilieta restaurant, I've had a look at availability and they're not taking any more bookings now for the month of July. In fact, August is looking pretty busy too, and I can only see a couple of openings for the month of August too, and these aren't even evening dinner bookings too. Now I was lucky enough a couple of weeks ago to go and eat over at La Ilieta, but there's a reason why this restaurant was so busy, and is because it is an amazing restaurant. It's a fantastic restaurant, and you're going to find that any top restaurants over here in Mallorca are going to have the same kind of level of demand, and for that reason you're going to find that many restaurants now do have an online booking system, and for that reason this is why I'm saying book your sittings in restaurants even before you come over here on holiday. And this is going to be the case in many of the main resorts, such as say Palma Nova, maybe down at Alcudia Port, maybe up in Porto Poyensa too. Get your booking now even before you come over here on holiday. Also as well, just going back to reserving your table and making your booking, do not be surprised if a restaurant asks you for a deposit if you make a booking in any restaurant, maybe a 20% deposit, because some people are just booking restaurants and then not turning up. Now I have heard some horror stories from restaurateurs on the island that big groups are being booked and then just cancelled, or just no-shows as well. This is a really awful thing to do to the islands if you're coming here on holiday. If you don't go to a restaurant, if you have a booking, make sure you cancel it. It's not fair. You wouldn't like it to happen to you if you had your business, so please don't do it here. Another thing to bear in mind as well, if you're having to book your table in a restaurant, you're going to find that many of these restaurants actually have sitting times, and these are going to be normally of a 2-hour period. I'm not a big fan of this, I have to say. Of course, I've been living on the island now for 20 years, and I remember a time when I used to eat over at La Ilieta restaurant on a nice casual Sunday afternoon with my daughter and some friends and their kids, and the kids used to run back to the beach and run back to the restaurant, and it was all very casual and leisurely. That's not the case anymore. Due to the high number of visitors that we have over here in Mallorca, it does mean that you're probably going to, if you have to book your table, you're probably going to get a 2-hour sitting, and in that time you need to have your starter, your main course and dessert, and then you are going to be asked to leave because the chances are there's going to be somebody waiting to take your table. Now, although it sounds almost unnecessary to do this, it is actually very necessary, because if this didn't happen in many of the very busy resorts, then holidaymakers would not get fed. And of course, with the huge demand for holidays at the moment and the amount of visitors that we have here at the moment, it helps get everyone through the restaurants, and it ensures that everyone does get a meal. But you're not going to find absolutely everywhere like this. Like I said, it's going to be the really popular restaurants in resorts. So I'm just going to put my sunglasses on actually. The sun is coming down. I don't like filming these kind of videos with my glasses on, but it is extremely bright here today, and I am in the shade, but the sun is right ahead of me. Okay, so moving on to the whole restaurant experience as well. One thing I have to say, and I have seen it in Facebook groups this summer, I have seen it on TripAdvisor. What do you do if you do not have a good experience eating out in any of the restaurants in Mallorca? The first thing I'm going to say is do not complain on social media. Don't just have a bad meal, leave the restaurant in a huff, and then go on social media and then just say what your bad experience was. Please complain at the time directly to the restaurant and try and resolve whatever situation you have had, and try and resolve it there before you go and take to TripAdvisor as well. Of course, for you to get the best experience possible, speak directly to the staff. Do not complain on social media. It's just not fair. On the Mallorca Under the Sun Facebook group, we will not accept posts with anybody complaining about a bad experience in the restaurant, because the chances are that 99.9% of people eating there will have had a great experience, and their experience will not be completely representative of that particular restaurant. So like I said, resolve that situation, and and that's just basically better for everybody. So what else do you need to know if you are eating out in Mallorca this summer? Well, we're going to talk average prices of meals here, and I would say budget in the region of around, you could probably budget in the region of around 25 to 30 euros minimum for a main course and a drink in most of the restaurants over here in Mallorca for this summer. Of course you can pay more, of course you can pay less, of course your bill's going to be more expensive if you buy and drink alcohol, and it's going to be less if you buy soft drinks or water. So kind of have that idea of a price in mind for this summer. But we have seen costs rising, and rising quite rapidly over here in the restaurants for this year, for various reasons as well, not least because of the rise of the standard of living, which is taking place around the world. We've seen a lot of comments from people saying how expensive Mallorca has become, but then again it is expensive around the world as well, and Mallorca isn't necessarily the cheap destination as it once was, and we may find that as well as we walk through Camp de Mar today. I'm going to point out a few prices of meals as we head on through the resort, so we'll take a look at how expensive this resort has become, or indeed is today. So what else can I tell you about restaurants and dining out here in Mallorca? Well, we're going to talk about split billing. If you are going out as a group, you're going to get one bill for the table. Sort out amongst yourself how you're going to pay for it, whether you all pay a set amount each. But one thing the Restaurant Association do not want is each person saying, I'm just paying for my meal, this person's paying for their meal, that person's paying for their meal. Maybe if the bill is 100 euros and you all pay 25 euros each, that's perfect. If one person pays for it and you'll figure out between yourselves how to pay each other back for that, once again, that's perfect. Alternatively, take cash with you and just pay for your meal that way as well. Cash is almost becoming a new concept, but it is coming back in fashion too. So think about how you're going to pay for it, but restaurants over here will not accept split billing, so please bear that in mind. Okay, so finally we're going to talk about the other side of the scale in terms of restaurants over here in Mallorca. We're going to talk about how some restaurants are actually struggling this summer to stay open. We've got one side of the scale with the hugely popular and successful restaurants in very big and popular holiday resorts. On the other side of the scale, we're talking about many other restaurants who are being forced to close, and indeed restaurants who are struggling to find staff. Like I've said, we've got a housing crisis over here in Mallorca. Staff who come over from the mainland. We have employees coming over from the mainland and elsewhere in Europe to work in the restaurants over here in Mallorca. They've struggled at finding affordable accommodation for the summer, and for that reason many people are not able to come over. Restaurants are being understaffed, and you're going to find a slightly different experience in some resorts. So please, like I said, pack your patience. If you're coming over here on holiday, pack your patience, and just bear in mind that maybe some restaurants do not have as many staff as they do indeed need to run this summer. So we do have a crisis in many of the restaurants over here. You're going to see for hire signs in many of the restaurants, particularly actually in places like Magaluf that depends upon British tourists and British tourism. Spanish workers don't necessarily like working over in Magaluf, and like you know as well, because of Brexit, British workers who once came over aren't able to come and work over here. So anyway, I have a comment here from username Life in Black Shorts, and he or she says, "Hi Alex, I have a bit of information for you. I've been in Camp Pastir for the past 10 days and I've spoken to many bar owners and restaurant owners. They have told me visitor numbers are dropping and do every year. Some close 1 day a week to save money. They also close early some days. I'm told that hotel numbers are down. It's not just Brits staying away, but others. They're putting it down to the cost of coming to Mallorca. One bar owner is selling up after 16 years and going to the mainland, and he says it's getting too expensive for him to survive in Mallorca, and he says taxes are part of the problem. I can confirm taxes are a big problem here, particularly if you're self-employed. They're absolutely horrendous, and I'm self-employed here, and I have to say I've just done my tax return, which resulted in me being in tears once again. So yeah, taxes aren't great, particularly if you're self-employed, and I can't even imagine running a restaurant over here and having to pay all the taxes and the rent and everything that goes along with that too. But he says, I hope this helps. It's been over 5 years since I visited Mallorca for a holiday, and I've noticed the difference in numbers and costs. Well, there you have it. You know, it's not just the big restaurants here and the very popular restaurants where you have to book online. We're seeing a lot of restaurants now that aren't always open. I've noticed this going around the resorts. Whether it's daytime, you're seeing restaurants not opening during the day and only opening in the evenings. We're seeing a lot of restaurants that are closed on a few days of the week and maybe only opening for a long weekend to save on those costs. If you are over here, if you're visiting on all-inclusive, maybe try and get out to the restaurants, support those businesses, you know, but by all means, if you're coming over to the island, just appreciate that there are a few problems and a few issues. So if you're coming over here to Mallorca this summer, you're going to see that you're going to get quite a mixed experience if you're eating out in any of the restaurants. If you're eating out in Mallorca this summer, you're either going to have to book your table now or take your chances if you're going out to eat. Just bear that in mind if you're staying in any of the very busy resorts, but support the restaurants over here. Please support the restaurants over here. Help them survive the summer, and you know, I'm pretty sure you're going to have a great experience. And in fact, if you've had a great experience in any of the restaurants this summer, please go ahead and recommend them on the Mallorca Under the Sun Facebook group. Take some photos of your meal, tell us what you liked about your meal, and go and post it on the Mallorca Under the Sun Facebook group. We'd love to see what you recommend for this summer. We will not, however, be accepting any negative reviews. Like I said, if you do have a negative experience in a restaurant this summer, address it directly with the restaurant that you're eating at, because the chances are that the majority of the people eating there are going to have a great experience. And like I said, just be patient as well this summer. Your food may take a little bit longer to come. Okay everyone, I'm going to go and film my video from over here in Camp de Mar, so that's going to be coming out very, very soon. Don't forget, you can also find me on the Facebook page and on my Instagram, also called Mallorca Under the Sun, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Goodbye for now.